Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Jeffrey Epstein Show. I'm your host, Bobbycapucci, and this is episode 5 of the Maxwell Files. In these segments, we're going to talk about everything Ghislaine Maxwell. Not her previous life, but everything from the moment of her arrest going forward. So this is where you'll find all of our Ghislaine Maxwell news, all of our coverage on her arrest, and what is transpiring afterwards. I'm going to do another series later on at some point where we profile the whole Maxwell family because there are some very, very interesting characters that are very important to the story. So we're definitely going to do that at some point. But this Maxwell Files series is basically just to keep up to date on the day-to-day news involving Ghislaine Maxwell's arrest and eventual conviction. So today we have an article from the Daily Mail. Headline, exclusive. She has copies of everything Epstein had. Ghislaine Maxwell has secret stash of pedophile sex tapes that could implicate world's most powerful and will try to use them to save herself. The author of this article is Cheyenne Roundtree. And that's a pretty gut-punching headline, huh? We know that there's tapes. We know that this was a blackmail operation, and we know that dossiers were compiled on all of these rich and famous people that were brought into their circle. And once the dossiers were compiled and the information was gathered and the tapes were made, well, these people were now under the thumb of not only Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, but of their handlers. Because you see, folks, what the legacy media isn't telling you is that this is much, much bigger than just a man and a woman who were involved in sex trafficking. This spans continents. This involves some of the most powerful movers and shakers in the world. And yes, as Nancy Pelosi's daughter said, it certainly involves some of our faves. And that's why I've never been a fan of hero worship. The only hero I have ever had in my life is my father. Because these strangers, these so-called people in elite society, these so-called elite members of society, they're all a bunch of scuzzbags, and none of them are worthy of hero worshiping. But now, the whole entire house of cards has started to tumble. The curtain has been drawn back, and the public has taken a look inside, and what they have seen has disgusted them. And moving forward, the outcry for justice in this case is going to be so loud that Ghislaine Maxwell and the other co-conspirators are going to have no choice but to turn on each other and try and make the best deal that they possibly can for their own well-being and so that they might have a chance to see the light of day at some point in their 70s. Ghislaine Maxwell had a secret stash of Jeffrey Epstein's twisted sex tapes and will use the footage as an insurance policy to save herself, a former friend exclusively revealed to dailymail.com. I've said this from the jump. Ghislaine Maxwell is not just some love-stricken bird, okay? She was a huge part of Jeffrey Epstein's operation. She was a boss, at the very least equal to Jeffrey Epstein. I have my suspicions that she was even more of a boss than Epstein here, to be honest with you. But the media is portraying her as some sort of victim, as someone who was in love with Jeffrey Epstein and would just do anything for him. And they're letting her friend, I'm not even going to mention her name because I don't want to give her any publicity, but they're letting her friend run all over media and pitch this disinformation once again. It's straight trash, and the legacy media should be ashamed of themselves. The only people the legacy media should be trying to talk to are the survivors if they're willing. Anybody else they're trying to talk to is going to sow disinformation and look to cover their own ass because all of these scumbags were involved. Maxwell, 58, was arrested at her hideout in Bradford, New Hampshire last Thursday. She was charged with 6 federal crimes, including enticement of minors, sex trafficking, and perjury. The British socialite, co-conspirator, child molester, all-around scuzzbag, was arguably Epstein's closest friend, and she is alleged to have acted as his co-conspirator and co-boss. Accused of securing underage girls for the multimillionaire who reportedly kept evidence of his perverted sex acts against the minors. He certainly did that, I am sure. But he has other tapes. The tapes of all of these world leaders. The tapes of the so-called members of elite and polite society. Those are the tapes that Ghislaine Maxwell most certainly has, or at the very least had, access to. When officials raided Epstein's Manhattan townhouse after his arrest last July, they found thousands of graphic photos that included images of underage girls and a safe filled with compact discs labeled "Nude Girls According to Authorities." So all of this evidence they've had. They've compiled this evidence. They have a treasure trove of it. And if they're pursuing this case correctly, like the SDNY should be, well, right now as we speak, they're preparing criminal conspiracy charges for all of the people involved. That's if they're doing their job. I'd like to say that they are. I've seen signs of life here, right? Ghislaine Maxwell getting arrested for one, but other things going on. We have the ruling with Deutsche Bank, and things are starting to trickle. And what happens is the second there's a little hole in the dam, some water starts to trickle out, right? And then the hole expands and more water starts to come out until eventually it comes out in a rush and covers everybody. And I feel like that's what's going to happen in this case. This is just a trickle right now, just a little bit. But as we get deeper and more is known, more will reveal itself. Maxwell's former friend explained, Ghislaine has always been as cunning as they come. She wasn't going to be with Epstein all those years and not have some insurance. 100%. I don't know who the former friend is here, the source, but I've been saying all of this stuff since the jump, and I certainly don't know Ghislaine Maxwell. But what I do know is how people in a criminal conspiracy in a RICO case conduct themselves, because I have personal experience with watching how RICO cases destroy people. And destroy people for much less than what Ghislaine Maxwell is accused of, folks. The secret stash of tapes, I believe Ghislaine has squirreled away, could end up being her get-out-of-jail card if authorities are willing to trade. She has copies of everything Epstein had. They could implicate some twisted movers and shakers. Okay, let's examine that. She is not getting out of this scot-free. She is going to prison. Okay, it doesn't matter what she gives up. She is going to prison to serve some time. Zero doubt about it. And she is in a very weird position because there aren't too many people higher up on her in the criminal conspiracy as far as this organization. Now, you could go up and start talking about mega group people going after Les Wexner, which is certainly a logical target in my opinion. But right now, Ghislaine Maxwell is the one left holding the bag, and the only way she is going to get any sort of leniency, not out of jail, mind you, but leniency, is if she gives up some huge trophies. I mean, huge trophies. And we'll know if she's squealing if she signs a proffer agreement. So we haven't heard anything about a proffer agreement or anything like that yet, but I'm definitely keeping my eye on it. They added, if Ghislaine goes down, she's going to take the whole damn lot of them down with her. 100%. It's about self-preservation. How many times have I said it? There's no honor among thieves, and there's no honor among human traffickers. The former friend continued, not only did Epstein like to capture himself with underage girls on camera, he wanted to make sure he had something to hold over the rich and powerful men who took advantage of his sick largesse. 100%. Whoever this former friend is definitely is in the know. They know the deal. They know the scoop. They know the real story. More than just the scratch of the surface the legacy media likes to give you. So it's looking like this former friend on its face is pretty credible here. I'll bet anything that once it comes out that Ghislaine has those tapes, these men will be quaking in their Italian leather boots. Of course she does. And remember when she first came out, and she was talking through her friend Laura through the Sun. And she was talking about how her email had been hacked and all of that jazz. And what did I tell you folks right here on the podcast? Don't buy it. It was a shot across the bow to everybody else involved of her letting them know that she has this information and she is not going down by herself. So you better step in and protect her. And her handlers decided that whatever she has is not enough to burn them. They don't care if some of the other people get burned, perhaps, but the handlers themselves have decided there's not enough there to burn them, but certainly enough to keep the heat off of them. So, the handlers split. The handlers discarded her. And now she is on her own, floating out on an island like a discarded piece of trash. Ghislaine made sure that she socked away thumb drives of it all. She knows where all the bodies are buried, and she'll use whatever she had to save her own ass. It sounds like me talking. I promise that wasn't me as her former friend that they're quoting here, but this is everything I've been saying on the podcast since the beginning, basically. This is a lady that is very calculating. She learned at her father's knee the art of spycraft. What do you think? She was sitting around and her dad was reading her, the little engine that could? Hell no. He was teaching her about spycraft. She was his protege. She was his favorite. And it shows. The day after Epstein's suicide last August, the New York Times published an account by journalist James B. Stewart, who had interviewed Epstein in August of 2018. In the course of their conversation, Epstein told Stewart he had filed away dirt on his famous house guests, some of it potentially damaging or embarrassing, including details about their supposed sexual proclivities and recreational drug use. And that's another thing we don't talk about enough. A lot of these people were getting doped up at Epstein's house. I hear of a lot of parties. I hear a lot of drugs going on. Now, I've never heard that Epstein himself partook, but these people like to get down. And we know rich people love to powder their nose. Maxwell's next court appearance is on Friday in New York. She is currently being held without bail. An indictment made public last week said Maxwell facilitated Epstein's crimes by helping Epstein to recruit, groom, and ultimately abuse girls as young as 14. It also said she participated in the sexual abuse. 100%. I don't even care what the indictment says. I know what the survivors have said. I know what Annie has said, okay? And anybody who wants to impugn Annie's credibility, well, you must seriously not have been paying attention. And you add to that what Maria has had to say, another one who has an unassailable track record of being correct here. And I know who I believe. I know where the evidence has led me. And that evidence has led me to knowing for a fact that not only was this a criminal enterprise of vast means as far as their trafficking ring, but when it comes to the financial crimes, folks, this is how we're going to make a lot of these people pay, the financial aspect. In asking the judge to deny her bail, prosecutors argued she is a flight risk because she has a vast international network of powerful friends. Maxwell is undeniably connected to some of the world's wealthiest and most influential people. For decades, she has been pictured flitting between society parties in New York City and London, posing with actresses, models, and tech tycoons, including Elon Musk and Naomi Campbell. Oh, let's not forget her hanging out with guys like Donald Trump or Bill Clinton. And let's not forget the laughable scene over at Fox News of them trying to crop Donald Trump out of the picture with Ghislaine Maxwell. I mean, are they serious? Fox News is an utter joke, folks. They're part of the legacy media, and they're just another joke of an organization. Maxwell has even been snapped on multiple occasions cozying up to future President Donald Trump along with his now wife Melania. That's why, you see, folks, look, this isn't a political one-sided issue here. There is scuzzbaggery going on both sides of the aisle. And especially lately, I see partisans from both sides infecting the investigation with disinformation and BS. Sort of like how people were trying to say that Dr. Fauci was involved in this. Oh, yeah, Fauci's brother, and Dr. Fauci doesn't even have a brother, okay? He has one sister named Denise. Stop it. She was so close with former President Bill Clinton, who flew multiple times on Epstein's infamous Lolita Express, that she attended the wedding of his daughter Chelsea in 2010. And for you on the other side, that's why you should all stop your nonsense as well. Oh, this is it. This is the big Trump. Trump is just as part of this, okay? This is a much bigger, a much more vast situation. So when people come in with their partisanship and their tribalism in this case, it is gross. There is plenty of scumbaggery on both sides to go around, folks. So let's see this through. Let's see this case through. Let's stop with the partisanship in this case. And then after all of these people are convicted and they're put in prison and these survivors get their justice, then everybody can go back to their tribalism and fighting and arguing over dumb shit. But please, stow it when you're talking about this case, when you're going to do some research into this case, whatever it may be, because it just gets in the way. It is more noise. But one of Maxwell's closest friends is Britain's Prince Andrew, pictured at his side throughout the years. In a recently uncovered photo, she posed with disgraced actor Kevin Spacey on Queen Elizabeth and Prince Philip's thrones during a private Buckingham Palace tour organized by the Joe Exotic of the Windsor family. Imagine the disrespect to the Queen. You got this child molester posted up on your throne, and your disgusting ass son's the one who brought her there? Oh, and never mind the scuzzbag next to her, Kevin Spacey's another sex offender. You know, I don't know about you folks out there, but I don't hang out with even one sex offender. All of these people seem to have a whole lot of sex offenders in their orbit, huh? Coincidence? Or fellow travelers? She was also smiling in the background of a photo taken at her London apartment where Prince Andrew posed with his hand around the waist of teenager Virginia Roberts. The then minor claimed she had sex with Prince Andrew under the direction of Maxwell and Epstein. Andrew has denied all claims against him. Yeah, okay, the Joe Exotic of the Windsor family has spoken. Everybody should just stop investigating because, you know, he's such an honorable guy. So honorable that he flew across the pond to break up with his boyfriend Epstein. How honorable. Maxwell's high-flying lifestyle came crashing down when the FBI found her hiding out at her $1 million home in the quiet town of Bradford, New Hampshire last Thursday. She bought the property in December for $1 million cash, using a company that reportedly has ties to her wealthy lover, Scott Borgerson. Federal prosecutors said Maxwell had been hiding in New England since last July, when Epstein was arrested. Last summer, DailyMail.com tracked her down to Manchester-by-the-Sea waterfront home of tech CEO Borgerson. Scott Borgerson really needs to answer some questions. Oh, and by the way, does it shock anybody that Scott Borgerson's another Harvard guy, or that he has ties to the Council on Foreign Relations? It shouldn't. She changed her phone number to one registered under GMax, changed her email address, moved at least twice when she ordered delivery packages, had them delivered under a different name. GMax, huh? What is she, a rapper? Is she going to get face tattoos now and run around with Tekashi 69 and the other snitch rappers? Because I don't understand. GMax, huh? Okay. A grand jury returned a sealed 6-count indictment against Maxwell on June 29th, almost a year after Epstein was charged. An indictment made public last week said Maxwell facilitated Epstein's crimes by helping Epstein to recruit, groom, and ultimately abuse girls as young as 14. It also said she participated in the sexual abuse. Yeah, and not only the indictment said it again. Let's listen to the survivors. That's what I implore all of you to do. If you're not following Virginia on Twitter and you're not following Maria on Twitter, you need to do that. Because what better way to get the information than directly from the girls who suffered at the hands of these sons of bitches? Maxwell, who has yet to enter a plea, faces 35 years in prison if convicted. She has previously denied any involvement in Epstein's crimes. The indictment reads in part, Ghislaine Maxwell facilitated Jeffrey Epstein's access to minor victims, knowing that he had a sexual preference for underage girls and that he intended to engage in sexual activity with those victims. It's just gross. It's gross even reading that. Over 500 articles here that I've read on this podcast, and every time we read about this, I still get grossed out and need a bleach shower afterwards. Among the allegations in the indictment is that Maxwell groomed the girls, including one in London. Victim 1 met Maxwell when she was 14 in 1994, the indictment reads. Maxwell allegedly groomed her by taking her to the movies and on shopping trips, asking her about school, her classes, her family, and other aspects of her life. She then sought to normalize inappropriate and abusive conduct by, among other things, undressing in front of her and being present when she undressed in front of Epstein, according to the indictment. And that is all part of the normalization process that these sick bastards employ, right? The grooming process is one disgusting, sick activity. And Ghislaine Maxwell was the key to all of it. Ghislaine Maxwell was not someone just in love with Jeffrey Epstein. Ghislaine Maxwell was not somebody who was being manipulated by Jeffrey Epstein. Ghislaine Maxwell is evil incarnate. And she deserves zero sympathy or zero compassion. Because what she was involved in was so heinous, so disgusting, that it calls for the most stringent laws to be thrown at her. The trio then engaged in group sexualized massages on more than one occasion, the indictment claims. The survivor was allegedly encouraged by Epstein and Maxwell to travel to the financier pedophiles' homes in New York and Florida for the purpose of sexual encounters with Epstein. Victim 2 met Ghislaine in 1996 and was allegedly groomed by her at Epstein's New Mexico ranch. The indictment claims that Maxwell gave her a topless massage and encouraged her to massage Epstein. And for those of you who have been following the case, you know exactly who that is. Survivor 3 met Maxwell in London in 1994 and was groomed until 1995, it is alleged. Maxwell encouraged her to massage Epstein, knowing that Epstein would engage in sex acts as she did so, prosecutors claim. The indictment alleges that Maxwell knew the three women were underage at the time. At a press conference on Thursday afternoon, acting U.S. Attorney for the Southern District Audrey Strauss said, Maxwell enticed minor girls, got them to trust her, then delivered them into the trap that she and Epstein had set for them. She pretended to be a woman they could trust. All the while, she was setting them up to be sexually abused by Epstein and in some cases by Maxwell herself. Today, after many years, Ghislaine Maxwell finally stands charged for her role in these crimes. And that is certainly the first part, right? The first step. She is charged, she is behind bars, and her life is never going to be the same now. The next step is the conviction. Let's get that conviction, let's slap it on her, and let's make sure that she never sees the light of day again. FBI Special Agent William Sweeney said the Bureau had been keeping tabs on Maxwell for some time. We have been discreetly keeping tabs on Maxwell for some time. She slithered away to a gorgeous property in New Hampshire, continuing to live a life of privilege while her survivors continue to live with the trauma inflicted on them years earlier. And that's for sure. She lived this life of opulence for years, while she left a wake of broken dreams and destroyed lives behind her. And now, finally, after all is said and done, this bipedal serpent is in jail and she is awaiting the hammer to drop. If you'd like to contact me, you can do that at bobbycapucci@protonmail.com. That's BOBBYCAPUCCI@protonmail.com. You can also find me on Twitter at BOBBY_CAPUCCI. Inside of the description box, you will find a link to the article and also a link to the GoFundMe account if you would like to help the podcast. All right, everybody, I will be back later on tonight with the Daily Drop. I hope everybody has a fantastic day.